I knew what kind of car she was going to be driving. I believe dispatch told me, I think it was a red Pontiac Grand Prix or Grand Am. And I saw her pull up and I saw a younger girl get out and I assumed that that was the defendant, Nichole Thomas. And I was standing there and she must have obviously known who I was. I had a badge and a gun on. She walked over to me and I said, "Are you Nichole?" And she said, "Yes." Best of my recollection, my exact words were, "I'm sorry to tell you that your roommate's deceased and she's been killed." I used the word "she's been killed."
How did the defendant react to that?
She didn't. She was flat, just no real reaction at all. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, I've done this many times throughout my career. You get different reactions from different people, but she just was kind of flat.
Was that reaction unusual compared to the other times that you've relayed the death of someone?
It was unusual, and I remember thinking, what's going on here? Why doesn't she seem concerned about this?
Did the defendant ask any of the what I would call the newspaper reporter questions, the who, the what, the where, the why, the how?
No, she didn't ask me anything about that, and that I found that very odd as well.
Why did you find that odd?
My experience, if the cops call you up and say, "I need to talk to you," for instance, the first question out of somebody's mouth is, "Why? What do you want to talk to me about? What's this about? What's going on?" And the same thing if you notify somebody. I've excuse me, walked up to doors in the middle of the night and told parents that their son was killed in a car accident. And they say, "Oh my God, where? Who was he with? What was he driving? Where was this?" They always have questions. She had no questions about any of this.
Is that pretty much the only time in your career that that was the reaction you got?
That's the only time I recall, yeah.
Okay.
A reaction like that.
What happened next?
I think I took her at some point to a crime van that was there. I mean, other investigators were arriving, Strandberg, Sunbakken, maybe Murphy, I don't recall. Somebody brought a crime van that we had, which had some seats in it so you could sit in there and interview people or talk with people. I took her into that and I talked to her for a little bit. I think I got a short statement from her. And then I asked her to meet me at the police department so we could talk more, and she agreed to do that. And I think at the same time, I asked the patrolman to talk to the victim's father and anybody that was there and asked them if they could come down so we could start the interview process.
So you interviewed her in the police van at the scene and then a second interview at the police department?
As I recall, yeah.
Okay. Were those interviews transcribed?
I believe they were, yes. Yeah, they were recorded.
Mr. and Poach, the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Now, Detective, I've handed you two documents. Do you recognize these documents?
I do?
Are these the transcripts of the interviews that took place between you and the defendant?
Yes, they are. One's indicated it's in the crime van and the other one at the Minot Police Department.
And were those both done on the 4th of June of 2007?
They were, one at 18:11 hours and one at 22:27 hours.
Have you previously reviewed these transcripts?
I did very briefly. I wasn't provided a copy of them.
If you could take a look at those and tell us if they are true and accurate copies of those transcripts.
What are the exhibit numbers, please?
I believe it was 16 and 17, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Please keep in mind it's been 17 years, but these appear to me to be accurate, correct?
So those are true and accurate
As I
copies?
recall them, yes.
State moves to enter exhibits 16 and 17 into evidence.
Mr. Sand.
We're going to object to their admission, Your Honor. Detective Barnard's here, and the best evidence is his testimony. He said he's reviewed these and the conversations he's had, so we're going to ask that they not be allowed into evidence.
Exhibit 16 and 17 will be received over your objections.
What happened next in the investigation?
Myself and investigators put on gloves and made entry to the apartment and viewed the deceased body and the general appearance of the apartment. I recall that at some point in time, I think from the crime van, we retrieved a large white paper roll that we kept. That was placed on the floor by the bed, and we removed the body. I think myself and Strandberg actually removed the body and placed it on that paper before it was placed into a black body bag. And at that time, I could see injuries to the victim that appeared to me to be stab wounds. And then later the knife was discovered in the bedding.
Now, you said a moment ago appeared to be stab wounds. Is that consistent with other times that you've seen stabbings in your career?
Yes.
Okay. Was it clear that that was what the cause of death was to you?
Well, I'm not a medical examiner, but it was my assumption. Yes, it was a reasonable assumption that these
Okay.
upper body knife wounds were the cause of her death.
What happened next in the investigation?
I think I left the scene, and the rest of the investigators continued to process the scene and collect evidence, take pictures, do all that stuff. And I went to the police department and started interviewing.
And you interviewed the defendant at the police department?
That's correct.
Did you interview other individuals at the police department?
I've interviewed a lot of people at the police department. I don't know who else I did on that specific date.
Okay. What was the next thing that happened in the investigation that you were a part of?
Well, I'm trying to think of the chronological order. Of course, we all met and talked about what was going on, and I remember sharing with the other investigators the what I felt was odd reaction from Nichole, the defendant, about this event. And they talked about retrieving other evidence. I believe a curtain rod, window screen from the maintenance man. We talked about the scene and taking footprints or trying to get prints by the window. We talked about the fact that the door was locked when the father got there, who would have keys to the door. And then we made it, I believe the next day, we asked the defendant, Nichole, to come with us and go through the apartment and look for anything that was out of place, things missing, furniture knocked over, whatever would be out of place, because we assumed that she'd be familiar with the contents of the apartment. And as we talked, I said, watch her, guys, I think is what I said. Let's see what her reaction is when she gets in the apartment. I'm curious to see how she's going to react to this.
And how did she react?
She was cooperative. She went in with us and she looked around, couldn't find anything. I kept watching her to see if she was going to look in the room. The room was right there and the door was open. The bed was right there. Of course, everything had been removed from the bed, the bedding and the body and everything, of course, was gone. She never looked. I felt as though she wasn't avoiding it, but she never looked, never asked a question about it, nothing. She did lock in on the fact that I think there was like an end table or a small table there. She had some kind of electronic device, nano or something, I don't remember what it was, that was missing. And she said they took my nano or whatever it was.
Would that have been an iPod Nano?
It could have been an iPad. I don't remember.
iPod.
Okay, iPod. Okay. I assumed it was some type of device with music on it, and I probably knew the name at the time, but I don't know. And she just kind of fixated on that. She was all of a sudden she was animated. And she was animated about this listening device, and I thought, this is what excites you here? This is what you're concerned about? But she said they stole it. Other than that, she was cooperative and said that everything in the apartment appeared to be just as it was when she last saw it.
So the possibility of losing an iPod got her excited, but not the death of her roommate.
Well, that's the way it appeared to me.
Okay.